So on the back of how you'd approach clients who are struggling with body dysmorphia, but how would you what sort of strategy would you give them? What would you tell them?
Yeah, so I think it just depends on the client and kind of how deep maybe the root issue is. So for example, if they are really struggling like mentally, I have said to clients like, have you considered counselling? Have you considered talking to a therapist? Like, I'll be honest, like a lot of clients, they do confide in me. Like they'll walk in here and I don't know if it's like the aura or if it's just because we are just one-on-one and they feel like they can just tell me. But people do tell me a lot of like any like relationship things they're going through. They'll tell me about work stresses, family life. They'll tell me like, oh, you know, how they feel about their body and their mental state. Like some people will say, like they'll walk in and I'll say, how's your day? How's your week been if I haven't seen them for a week? And they'll say, oh, it's been a struggle or it's been a good week. You know, they will tell me, like, I do have a box of tissues in here and it's not just if someone's got a runny nose, but people do get emotional. Like I have clients that have got emotional on me, you know, like they might say something and then, you know, they have an emotive reaction. And if I get those reactions from clients, I have said to them, like, have you considered talking to somebody? Like, I'm not a qualified therapist, don't get me wrong, I'll listen and I'll give advice, but I have recommended people to speaking to therapists, counsellors, just saying like, I feel like you would benefit from maybe speaking to somebody about this and getting some actual professional help. And again, I know we spoke about social media, but I kind of just try and advise them to, whatever it is that's making you feel more anxious, for example, get away from it. Even if it's a person, even if it's a relationship, if you feel like you're in a toxic relationship, you need to, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling people to leave their partners by any means, but if you're in a toxic situational relationship, like, is that healthy for you? Do you need to address that with the person you're in the relationship with and, you know, talk to that person? Do they even know how you're feeling? And I think sometimes I will just say to that person, like, have you done this? Have you tried this? Obviously, I don't know the people that they're talking about, so I'm not connected to anybody, so it's very easy for me to kind of offer advice or throw questions. But I think the biggest one is recommending somebody speak to a professional therapist or counsellor to get to the root of the issue, I would say. And that isn't something that I specialise in. Yeah, I can train you and I can speak to you and I can say to you, come off social media, get more fresh air, focus on your nutrition, focus on working out 3 times a week, trying to get those 10,000 steps, try and get 7 hours sleep a night. But ultimately, if you're dealing with something, you know, more serious mentally, then you need to speak to somebody professionally about it.
Just touch more on relationships, so you mentioned. Do you feel like part of the problem is because in a relationship, people aren't, you know, asking the people around them, seeing if they're alright and stuff, and if they keep on top of things? Or do you feel like it's the other way around and people just put each other down about it or comparing each other to each other too much?
I think, to be honest, that's a good question. I would say it's a bit of both. People come in here and, you know, they get a lot of support at home and they've got people that are really, you know, how did your training session go and how much weight have you lost this week? And even though they're coming from a good place, they might feel that that's putting pressure on them. That it's like, if they haven't lost weight this week, you know, or if they've stayed the same, they feel like they're failing. And I've had clients that have stopped training with me because I said, oh, I'm not losing any weight. And I'm like, okay, but you're making progress in so many other ways. Like, I've measured you every 4 weeks and you've lost 2 inches now. So you might not have lost weight on the scales, and this is where women get obsessed with numbers, but you've made progress and you've lost centimetres, so that is progress. And women naturally, genetically and biologically, hold more water in their body. You know, women naturally have more fat on their body because biologically women are made to reproduce. So sometimes the progress, it isn't shown on the scales. And again, they'll make progress where I'll say, 5 weeks ago you were lifting 20 kg, you're now lifting 40 kg, that's massive. You're getting stronger. Again, we would be on the Stairmaster for 2 minutes, you're now doing 10 minutes. You're getting fitter. So again, it's like celebrating those small wins sometimes rather than thinking, well, I haven't lost a stone. Yeah, but what have you done? What have you achieved? Likewise, where you've got people that have got supportive partners, you've sometimes got people that don't have any support at home. You know, they might have people that don't actually want them to come to a personal trainer, or you might have people that, like you say, they won't have those check-ins on, you know, like, how are you feeling this week? They might just go week to week to week, going to work, coming home, going to work, and they don't even have those conversations to say, are you okay? And I feel like that sometimes, not that I'm trying to make people cry obviously, but sometimes when people step in here, if I ask them that question, how are you? How are you feeling? that can sometimes just make people cry, because it's almost like it's the first time that they've been asked that in a while, which is it's quite deep, and it's really sad for me, because I am genuinely wanting to know, like, are you okay? 1, mentally, are you ready to train today? 2, physically, are you strong enough? Have you eaten enough? Have you slept? You know, are you even hydrated enough? Like, I don't want people to collapse in here. I really don't want the ambulance outside my gym. And I've got a duty of care to my clients to make sure, are you okay to have this hour session today? But I do generally feel like people's home life, obviously nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. I'm only with somebody an hour a week, an hour a day, an hour, a couple of, depending on how often they train with me. So I don't know what goes on in their personal life, but I do feel like it's a good thing for me to be able to support those clients that need it, and I like the fact that they feel that they can trust me. It's very confidential. You know, I never discuss anything or mention any names. I always say, like, what is said in these 4 walls, it's not going any further, and that they can trust me. But sometimes if people are telling me something that is quite serious, where I say, you know, maybe you should speak to somebody else professionally. But yeah, it is a real tough one, especially when people get upset and emotional. It's tough to see, you know, your clients in that way, and you don't know what they're going home to. You don't know when they leave here what's going to happen. So it's tough.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah.